Hey everyone, Poindexter here, and we continue our playthrough of the solitaire wargame Western Front Ace. In the last two patrols, Lieutenant Daladier went on his first solitary hunting mission without scoring any victories. But his second patrol saw him destroy 2 German scouts and gain another award in the process. He has now scored 15 victories, so let's get started and see if Albert can score even more. Albert's next mission will be another line patrol. This will be another solo patrol, so let's hope our fortunes fare better this time than our first attempt. Albert takes off alone, and he searches for enemy aircraft. But he fails to spot any German aircraft. Albert moves to friendly territory, and we check for our next encounter. But the sky is clear of aircraft. Albert moves into no man's land and begins his solo patrol, searching for signs of German aircraft. But still, no enemy aircraft are seen. Albert continues moving along the front lines, and he scans the sky for signs of enemy aircraft. Once again, no enemies are spotted. Frustrated, Albert ends his line patrol and heads back to friendly territory. He looks around for signs of German aircraft, but the sky remains clear of enemies. Albert approaches the airfield, and we try one last time for an encounter. But no encounter takes place. Albert begins his landing approach, and we check the weather. And the weather is bad, which adds a +2 modifier to the landing roll. With Albert's current fatigue, the landing skill perk is negated, so the +2 modifier remains. We roll a modified 11, which is enough for a safe landing. We document Albert's uneventful solo patrol in the pilot log. It's become evident that the Germans have learned of Lieutenant Daladier's exploits along this area of the front lines, evidenced by their avoiding combat on Albert's solo patrol. Therefore, he decides to request a transfer to another squadron and another base. Doing this requires us to spend a prestige point. In October, there are 2 escadrilles outside of our current location, in the Enna sector. Albert chooses Escadrille 62, located in Kwasi. The relocation costs us 1 sortie and reduces our current fatigue by 2. Albert's first patrol with his new escadrille, and the last one of October, will be a balloon busting mission. This will not be another solo patrol. We'll be armed with incendiary ammunition and can only engage enemy scouts. Attacking 2-seaters is forbidden. Albert takes off, and he looks around for German scouts nearby, and quickly spots a flight of enemy aircraft. The enemy scouts are the dreaded Halberstadt D2s. And the enemy starts with the advantage. Albert performs a barrel roll, which will remove 2 hits from the attacking German scout. With his superior performance, he hopes to quickly gain the advantage over the Halberstadt. The German scout fires and lands 4 hits, but we remove 2 hits because of the barrel roll maneuver. And both hits strike canvas, causing no damage. We now determine final positions in the initiative check. And Albert manages to gain a position facing the Halberstadt head-on. Now that Albert can bring his guns to bear, he will use reflexes to fire first in this round. He fires and lands 5 hits. The Halberstadt's forward weapons are knocked out, and he takes 2 hits to the fuel tank, which immediately causes a fire, since we are carrying incendiary ammunition. The helpless German scout arcs through the sky, wrapped in flames, and crashes into the ground. Albert has scored his 16th victory. Albert continues his mission and flies into friendly territory. He checks for further encounters, but no enemy aircraft are spotted. Albert makes his way to the front and spots the enemy balloon. He begins his attack, and we check to see if Albert takes any anti-aircraft fire as he moves in. And Albert is spotted by gunners on the ground and takes 6 hits. Fortunately, the only serious damage caused is to our forward weapons, with the majority of hits striking canvas. Unfortunately, Albert cannot fire at the balloon, but an attack was attempted, giving him credit for the mission. He must now weather another storm of ground fire as he flies away. And he takes 4 more hits. Both struts are struck by gunfire, but Albert manages to get away without serious damage. Albert flies back to friendly territory, and we check for enemy encounters. And unfortunately come across another flight of enemy scouts. The encounter sees us fighting more Halberstadt D2s. But this time, Albert manages to gain the advantage over his foe. With no way to fire at the German scout, Albert signals his wingman to attack the Halberstadt. His wingman attacks and scores no hits, but does manage to gain a position, and both Spads are now tailing the Halberstadt. We now determine the final positions in the initiative check. And the Spad's superior performance ensures Albert remains on the Halberstadt's tail. Now in the superior position, and with no way to fire at the German scout, Albert decides to break contact and fly away, ending the encounter. Albert continues his trek to the airfield, and we check for our final encounter. And no further encounters take place. Albert begins his landing, and we check the weather. And the weather is good. Though Albert's Spad is riddled with holes, thanks to the heavy anti-aircraft fire over the front, he only took 5 significant hits, so his scout is repaired in time for the next patrol. Albert receives credit for the equivalent of 2 contact patrols thanks to the successful balloon busting mission. This gives Albert his 3rd experience point, and we will use it to purchase a new skill, situational awareness. This skill adds a +1 to the final initiative roll in combat, and applies a -1 modifier to starting orientation rolls, giving us a slightly better chance of beginning combat with an advantage. With these 2 patrols completed, we've reached the end of the video. Lieutenant Daladier went on another unsuccessful solitary hunting patrol, flying all along the front lines without spotting a single enemy aircraft. This prompted him to move to a new base and a new area of the front, in the hopes of finding better hunting grounds. It succeeded in some respects, as Albert finally took his revenge on his personal nemesis, the German Halberstadt fighter. He was foiled for a 3rd time during a balloon attack, as his weapons were knocked out before he could fire, and with the amount of ground fire he took during the attack, he's fortunate to not have been shot down. But acquiring his new situational awareness skill will help give Albert even more of an edge in the air battles to come. Let's hope it's enough. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next patrol.